abbiamo proseguito imperterriti, pensando di rimanere sempre sani in un mondo malato.
Le parole pronunciate da Papa Francesco il 27 marzo 2020 in una piazza San Pietro irrealmente deserta durante l'orazione straordinaria per la fine della pandemia saranno la guida alle varie riflessioni interdisciplinari che alimenteranno le 3 giornate del 15° Congresso internazionale Città e Territorio Virtuale. La storia recente, le sfide contemporanee e le crisi internazionali sono l'occasione per riflettere su come gestire, conservare e sviluppare quei sistemi complessi che sono la città e il territorio in un futuro prossimo, drammaticamente segnato da alcune gravi crisi internazionali, e costruire strategie finalmente antifragili. Nato da una intuizione di Josep Roca Cladera, allora direttore del Centro de Política de Suela Valorazione della Università Politecnica della Catalunya di Barcellona, con l'edizione numero 15, il Congresso Città e Territorio Virtuale ritorna a Roma dopo 12 anni, dal 10 al 12 settembre 2025, per tracciare un percorso rinnovato e interdisciplinare nella ricerca, nella comunicazione, nella didattica, nella direzione di un rinascimento della città, richiamando così quanto sostenuto da Marcello Vittorini fin dal 1988 e più recentemente da Matthew Hardy, che aprirà il nostro congresso. La coincidenza con il Giubileo 2025 sarà anche l'occasione per confrontarsi sugli effetti e impatti dei grandi eventi su città e territori, con un'attenzione speciale ai risvolti socio-economici e a quelli climatico-ambientali e al reale incremento della competitività a livello internazionale. Il congresso, che sarà ospitato dalla Facoltà di Architettura della Sapienza ed è frutto della stretta collaborazione con l'Università Roma Tor Vergata e l'Università Roma 3, si articolerà in 3 giornate tematiche, equilibri, scenari e forze, con 3 lectio magistralis che vedranno alternarsi Matteo Hardy, Alessandra Vittorini e Arnaldo Bibo Cecchini, 12 sessioni parallele e 4 sessioni speciali, che saranno occasione per intercambiare esperienze e conoscenze all'interno e soprattutto all'esterno dell'ambito accademico. Aprono le iniziative del congresso 3 webinar, il 27 febbraio, il 13 e il 27 marzo 2025, che saranno rispettivamente curati da Lorenzo Gimenez della Università Mackenzie di San Paolo del Brasile, Hilda Remoy della TU Delft e Blanca Reyano Ramos della Università Politecnica della Catalunya, e verteranno su 3 dei temi chiave su cui si concentrerà il dibattito del congresso: le prospettive sociali strategiche e pratiche sulla rigenerazione urbana nelle città in transizione, il real estate e il riuso del patrimonio, e i rischi naturali e le città resilienti. Vi aspettiamo numerosi.
Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome with the first of 3 introductory webinars, the 15th International Congress Virtual City and Territory Towards the Renaissance of the City, which will take place in Rome from 10 to 12 September 2025 at the Faculty of Architecture of Sapienza University of Rome, take its first steps. The idea of presenting the Congress with the 3 webinars is based on the belief that starting the debates on some of the key themes that will characterize the Congress can allow more people, scholars, experts, and professionals to become passionate about the debate and decide to actively participate in the Congress by presenting their personal research and work experience. The call for abstract will be launched at the end of March. The first webinar, which I am pleased to present, will focus on the issue of cities in transition, social, strategic, and practical perspectives on urban regeneration, and will be coordinated by my friend Lorenzo Gimenez. Lorenzo is an architect and urban planner with a master in urban environmental structures from the Federal University of São Paulo, Brazil. Co-founder of FJMF Architects with a portfolio of over 600 projects of various scales, he has led all urban scale projects developed by the firm over the past 25 years. FJMF has received more than 250 national and international awards. He is also a professor in the postgraduate program at Mackenzie University in Sao Paulo and a visiting professor at Roma Tri University. He has taught undergraduate and postgraduate courses in Brazil, in addition to serving as a guest professor and workshop speaker for the International Honors Program at the Columbia University and the MIT in Boston. So I don't want to take up any more time from Lorenzo, who I thank on behalf of the entire Congress staff, and I leave the floor to him. Thank you, Lorenzo, and please.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. We're here in Rome. Thank you, Mario, for the invitation. I'm very glad to join you in this very interesting discussion we're about to have. Today we have three great guests. We're going to talk about cities in transition from social, strategic, and practical perspectives on urban regeneration. In the context of contemporary urban transformation, city regeneration has taken on a crucial role in addressing the environmental, economic, and social challenges of the 21st century. The transition from urban regeneration to intelligent regeneration represents a new phase in urban evolution, where technology, social participation, and an integrated planning approach become key elements in building more resilient, inclusive, and sustainable cities. This webinar will explore how innovative urban renewal strategies can create a lasting positive impact, balancing economic growth, social justice, and environmental preservation. The discussion will be structured around three complementary perspectives: the concept of social urbanism and its role in building more inclusive communities, large-scale intervention projects and their ability to sustainably transform the urban fabric, and finally, the practical experience of implementing large-scale urban regeneration projects, highlighting operational tools and the challenges faced by key stakeholders. We're having three guests this afternoon. One of them is Professor Eduardo Cucenobre, who will provide insights into public urban policies and strategic planning, analyzing the impact of major urban transformation. His studies in urban plans and strategies will offer an essential framework for understanding how cities can evolve through regeneration interventions. The second guest is Stephen Engblom, an architect from San Francisco, with his extensive international experience in urban regeneration projects and infrastructure. Stephen will illustrate the dynamics between the public and private sectors in executing large-scale interventions. His knowledge of urban growth strategies and their economic impact will be fundamental in understanding how to transform cities into more resilient and competitive environments. And finally, Esther Carro from São Paulo, Brazil, has an outstanding experience in developing interventions in favelas. She'll offer this repertoire as a contrast to large-scale urban projects in more structured urban situations, bringing innovative tools for an integrated approach to planning, social equity, and environmental sustainability. So our first guest is going to be Eduardo Nobre, which has rather extensive CV. I'll try to summarize it here for you. He's associate professor at the University, at the Faculty of Architecture and Urbanism at the University of São Paulo in Brazil, and he holds a degree in Architecture and Urbanism also from the same university, a master's in Urban Design from Oxford Brookes University, UK, a PhD in Architecture and Urbanism also from University of São Paulo, and a postdoctoral degree in Urban and Regional Planning from IPUR in the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. He's currently Vice President of the University of São Paulo Research and Innovation Commission and has served as President of the Master's Program Commission. and coordinator for the PhD program in architecture and urbanism. He has been a faculty member in the urban and regional planning group since 2001 and supervises students at all academic levels. He coordinates the dual PhD program between PAUSP and Politecnico di Milano, where he was a visiting professor and senior researcher in 2024. He has served also as president and director of the National Association of Urban and Regional Planning Studies, NPUR, was a member of the Global Planning Education Association Network, and chaired the World Planning School Congress in 2022. He has held advisory roles in São Paulo municipal government and is active consultant in urban and regional planning. So everybody welcome, please welcome Eduardo Lucinobre. Eduardo, you have the floor.
Okay. Can you listen to me? Can you hear me? Yeah?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay. So I will thank you very much for the invitation, Lorenzo. It's a pleasure to be here. I will present a PowerPoint, so I'll try to do it now. It's sometimes a little bit difficult to, but I think I will manage. Let's see. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes. Yeah, we can see it. Thank you.
Okay. The whole screen, yeah? Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'm trying to, okay. So it's a pleasure to be with you. I will also mark the time here, just a minute. It's a pleasure to be with you, and it's very interesting for me to deal with this subject, because it was the subject that I once dealt when I did my master's in Oxford Brookes University. And I tried to bring some of the things, of course, up to date into the present days, but what I would try to talk about is like how it's a better approach to urban regeneration, talking a little bit about the past experience, but also about the current trends. So this presentation will be divided in 5 parts. The first one is conceptualizing urban regeneration. The second is a little historic evolution of urban regeneration, recent trends. I will take some time more to talk about social urban regeneration, where I will present a project specifically in Brazil, and then the conclusions, trying to address all the things that I talked in the presentation. Well, first, the thing that what comes in mind when we're talking about urban regeneration, because I think it's a term that has been largely used in the field of urban study, is what is urban regeneration? And well, the term appeared in the 80s and the 90s, especially in the Anglo-Saxon academic literature, and it was used to define the urban policies that at that time were developed to tackle the problems of urban decline, specifically for ex-industrial areas that has arisen from the global economic restructuring. So this is when the first time that it became very common to use this word, specifically in the Anglo-Saxon academic literature. And then I take a paragraph from Andrew Tallon, that is a researcher on this theme in the United Kingdom. And he said, well, urban regeneration, revitalization, renewal, and renaissance are amongst the plethora of phrases and buzzwords have come to characterize the key themes to be used by the media, government, and academics, interchangeable terms essentially related to the same process. But the same Taylor said, well, there are subtleties. And that's what I would like to do a little bit more in the next section. That's a little bit about the historical evolution. If all these terms, urban renewal, revitalization, and regeneration are the same, or means to deal with the same process, they have some specificities. For instance, urban renewal is very much used to define the results of post-war inner cities reconstruction, especially in Europe, but also Islam clearance and roadwork policies in the USA. I think probably the most famous or paradigmatic experience of urban renewal that we can mention is all the works that were developed by Robert Moses in the city of New York, specifically from the 30s to the 60s, specifically related to the construction of expressways, parks, housing developments, and during the period that he was in office. And it was using something like $27 billion provided by the 1949 Federal Housing Act. Moses promoted a series of slum clearance and urban renewal projects in the city of New York. The social impacts of these policies were so negative, especially for the most excluded people, that made the Afro-American activist James Baldwin to say, urban renewal means Negro removal, quote. So this is from the 50s and 60s, and the 70s, especially due to the reaction of the communities to the sort of bulldozer policies, there is a change in the way that the municipalities dealt with the problem of urban decline and the derelict areas. And the major concern, also there was a major concern with historic heritage and social networks. And probably the most famous experience of that time was the experience of the city of Bologna. That was the plan for the historic center that was together with the social housing plan. So using the morphology, urban morphology and building typologies studies, the group of the city of Bologna, led by Cervellati and all others, had developed a plan where they defined 4 major typologies that should have different sort of strategies to deal with. The first 2 were the great buildings and the courtyard houses that had historic interest, so they were restored. The type C was the artisans' houses that they saw potential to become social housing units, especially for the students and for the elderly, the students, of course, of the University of Bologna and the elderly people. And there were the D category that's in orange in this map that was specified for demolition because they have no historic interest. And the result was, you still can see nowadays in the city of Bologna, these are the pictures I took last year, and then you can see the compartimenti, or the great historical buildings restored, and also the artisan's house to the right that were renewed and became social housing. So there was a change in the way urban renewal or urban regeneration was seen. Instead of great large-scale works, now we were talking about rehabilitation, so trying to keep the social and the urban fabric. In the 80s and 90s, you had this, as I said, when the urban regeneration became a very common term, and many Anglo-Saxons said it was a market-led urban regeneration, and it was thought to attract investments, development, and jobs in ex-industrial areas, resulting from global economic restructuring. And probably the most paradigmatic experience, let's say, is the one from the London Docklands. Yes, so there's some figures some maps to show. It is the Docklands. It's a huge area of 2,200 hectares along 10 kilometers of the Thames River. It was an area that became really problematic after the 60s because it was the time where it started the closure of the docks. And in the 1980s, late 1980s, during Margaret Thatcher administration office, they created, based on urban deregulation and public-private partnerships, they created the London Docklands Development Corporation and created an enterprise zone that's purple in the map. And the result of this process was the construction of 1 million square meters of office building, but it has a lot of problems that the literature tells us about. For instance, It was thought to have a sort of transport that was based in the Docklands light rail that collapsed afterwards because it couldn't support the demand of the people working on the offices. Afterwards, the Department of Transport had to pay 2.6 billion sterling pounds to extend the Jubilee line until there. But probably one of the biggest problems caused by this sort of regeneration was the gentrification. The reports from the London Docklands Development Consultee said that a two-bedroom flat increased the value 5 times over 10-year periods from 40,000 sterling pounds to 200,000 sterling pounds. So these were basically this historic, historic review of urban regeneration and its different terms to define it. But recently, I think we have had a change in an approach, especially from the last market-led urban regeneration of the 90s. And this was due to many things, specifically the early 21st century's various crises. Of course, the first one is the environmental crisis that we are feeling with the climate change and the need that our cities to be more resilient to these processes. The other one also was the health crisis, and I think the pandemics of COVID showed that we have to pay attention to this subject, especially in our cities. Also, the political problem that we are undergoing now, for instance, a lot of regional wars, migrations, and also the socioeconomic, especially after the 2019 economic crisis. So I think all of this has resulted somehow in a way that is trying to define new approaches towards urban regeneration. And then I took here that I think it's quite interesting, the definition that UN Habitat has to urban regeneration. So, sorry, I will read. Urban regeneration brings back underutilized assets. I think this is an important subject, underutilized assets or derelict or vacant land, if you prefer, and redistributes opportunities, increasing urban prosperity and quality of life. Urban regeneration initiatives are complex, lengthy, and run the risk of gentrifying private space or privatized public one, as we have already seen. The UN Habitat, we work urban regeneration that ensures affordability, access to service, involvement in the local residents to promote local economic development, where public space is a key element. And cities should reduce environmental impact. The preservation, valorization of cultural heritage is a key opportunity for urban regeneration as well. So, and saying that, I will try to show in the 9 minutes left that I have something about the social urban regeneration that we can say that's very much related. Of course, you can find in any country of the world urban regeneration that considers a social justice. But I think we have a specific experience here in the Global South, especially because of the great amount of urban precariousness, what we call the favelas. There was a change of attitude towards them in the 1980s, from eradication to upgrading programs. And the idea was to guarantee the citizens' rights for the housing, understand the housing as a part integrated of the urban space, the assumption that the removal should take place only when necessary, and also the most important probably is the provision of infrastructure, open space, and public service for this derelict and very precarious area. And I would try to show quickly here one experience we had in the 90s. It's called the Guarapiranga Water Springs Program. It's one of the biggest environmental problems in the city of São Paulo because despite the restrictions of the spring protections area law of the 76, the area has been occupied irregularly over the last 50 years. In 2002, there was, in the city of São Paulo only, it was estimated that you have 1.3 million people living in the area. That is 6% of the metropolitan population and 12% of the city. And in the 1990s, the city and the state, together with the World Bank, launched this Guarapiranga recovery program with these objectives. Installation of sewage system, of course, in order to not to pollute the waters with the illegal disposal of sewage, favela upgrading programs, land tenure regularization, and housing provision. In 2006, that 76 law was redrawn, and zoned the area of the Guarapiranga as restricted occupation, direct occupation, and environmental recovery. This is a map just to show you the red line, dotted line, is the water spring protection area. So you can see to the south a huge portion of land that is in an area that shouldn't have people because it's the water springs, the area that provide water for the metropolis. So the idea was to recover or to regenerate these areas with a series of sub-programs. This is just a map showing the density. So in red is a high density occupation in an area that shouldn't be occupied at all. And the program was divided in 5 sub-programs: water and sewage services, waste collection, urban regeneration, environmental protection, and basin management. I will talk basically about urban regeneration. The city of São Paulo was responsible for this specific issue. The other ones were the state of São Paulo. And they developed projects to upgrade 139 favelas and 85 illegal allotments. The idea is to address the problems of the buildings with structural problems, the lack of open spaces, the high density, and the creation of a road network to allow circulation and also to allow the entrance of the sewage systems, and also the areas of risk of collapse. So for each favela or community was developed urban project like this one. So behind you see it, the yellow new roads that were projected, in green the new open spaces. So basically you remove the people in risk areas and try to provide in that areas the open space necessary, and also to create we call penetration alleys in order to allow services to enter these areas. And these are some images of this project. So on the top, how it was, and afterwards the project. So a lot of course, this was in the 90s. Probably the pavement today, it would be done by with semi-permeable material, but that way it was asphalt. But anyway, the canalization of the streams, and also the provision of our water sewage system in the left, the picture in the left, and here is showing also the results of the upgrading of the regeneration projects for these favelas, with the creation of new alleys and walkways for the pedestrian, the creation of public spaces for children to play in areas that were really very much degraded. And so this is how it looked like at the end. This is in Jardim Iporanga. This is one of the projects that were developed at that area. So, well, I think I run too much. I still have three minutes left. But anyway, considering this evolution of the urban regeneration projects, and considering that it deals with unused or derelict or degraded areas, I think we can address the 3 dimensions that has already been said. But in order to really reach an ideal urban regeneration project, I think these 3 dimensions should be balanced very well in order not to have, like we said in the market-led urban regeneration in the 90s, too much pro-market and leaving the needs of the local population aside, or only also consider only the social aspects but not considering the economic. So basically, we have already talked about this. So first one, the economic one. So promote economic development and the few use of derelict urban areas. I think this is quite important because in many cities, we still have derelict urban areas that should be used in order to avoid the cities to expand and more than they are expanding. Supporting business installation in various sectors, clean industries, wholesale, retail, service, offices, public service, etc. Social, of course, as we have seen in the 50s, in the 90s, this was a dimension that was almost forgotten. That is to meet the demands of local population, specifically regarding to jobs, housing, infrastructure, open spaces, and public service needs. And finally, the environmental issue to promote environmental recovery of ecosystem services and to mitigate the impacts of the urban development, because any urban development causes environmental impacts. And of course, nowadays we are using of many ways of mitigating these problems, especially with the reduction, recycling, and reuse of buildings and natural resources, but more recently also the adaptation of buildings and the urban environment to climate change. That's, I think, just in the agenda now. And this is just some references. I use it for this presentation. Afterwards, if you want, I can share you. And I think that's it. Thanks very much for your attention. So I'll close it.
Yeah. Eduardo, thank you so much. I guess your stay and your experience in London made you quite punctual.
Yes.
Nevertheless, I know you're Brazilian, so this is quite rare that you made it right on time, started on time, and finished within your time frame. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like also to ask everybody who might be interested in asking questions for our guests to use the chat space in this Google Meet program. So you may find already a message I left there. So you just drop the questions, and I'll address them to the guests at the end of their presentations. Okay. So we can start now with Stephen Engblom. Stephen is a global leader in urban design with extensive experience advising cities and developers around the world on urban infill and regeneration projects. He's the founder of Engblom Architecture and Planning, where he advises private and public sector clients on real estate projects of all scales, ranging from residential developments to large-scale urban infill initiatives and infrastructure initiatives. In addition to his work on urban design, Stephen is developing innovative approaches to shelter for unhoused communities in California. A registered architect and urban planner, Stephen has spent over 2 decades collaborating on urban design and architecture initiatives in the San Francisco Bay Area, nationally and internationally. He specializes in bringing public and private sector realms to implement innovative growth strategies, cultivate strong client relationships, and deliver financially successful projects. Stephen has also worked internationally, including with myself. We had the opportunity to work over a decade ago on a regeneration scheme for the Nova Luz district of downtown São Paulo in Brazil, demonstrating his expertise in revitalizing urban areas and integrating large-scale infrastructure projects. His deep technical expertise in urban design and planning, along with his global network, has enabled him to develop equitable, environmentally sustainable, and economically viable strategies for both public and private sector clients. He served as Senior Managing Director at CBRE, where he launched the consultancy's first public sector-facing practice, and as the Executive Vice President at AECOM, where he led the creation of AECOM Cities, an integrated approach to urban infrastructure development. In addition to his consulting work, Stephen serves as a commissioner for the Port of San Francisco, contributing to key decisions that shape the city's waterfront and urban development. He's also a faculty member at UC Berkeley's College of Environmental Design, teaching resilience in real estate development, and remains actively engaged in civic initiatives and advisory roles. So please, everybody, welcome my friend, Stephen Engblom. Stephen, you have the floor.
Great. Thank you, Lorenzo, for the invitation to join you all. And very interesting topic. I'm really glad to have heard Eduardo's presentation because it really helped set some context for my own thinking. And you know, as Lorenzo mentioned, I've had the opportunity to work around the world, and I would say what I'm very excited about is taking lessons learned in what I call my first chapter of work, working in large companies, and now have more of a portfolio approach where I'm working on lots of different things. And I'm gonna spend today talking about some pivotal lessons learned in some of the most important projects I feel like I had an opportunity to work with, and how it's shaping what I'm thinking about today. And I think one of the things I'm going to spend, the thing I'll spend most of my time today is that as the urban planning community, I'll put a statement out that I feel like hearing Eduardo's discussion about urban regeneration, I think what's so fascinating is that you know, as a community of professionals in this space, we tend to think about the urban cores a lot. And I think that most of the world lives in suburban areas. And one of the things I've been interested in, and I'll put out to this Congress, is the idea that there's a lot more of the city than just the urban cores that we really need to be thinking about. And so, as Lorenzo mentioned, I got to meet Lorenzo working on this incredibly important downtown regeneration scheme for Nova Luz. And you know, a lot of years of hard work went into this project, and very serious issues that faced Sao Paulo. We were very excited about some big ideas that we thought would become a new paradigm for all of Latin America. But one of the things you learn, and Eduardo mentioned this, is that is much of integrated thinking that we do between our design community and the engineering community. Another really important thing to think about is how to work with politicians, because this project got swept away by politics. And you know, as important as it was to really try and find a way to have this project work, politics were at play and really, you know, ripped the scheme apart. And so a lot of incredible work, and hopefully at some point this work will get revisited. And there were a lot of really good ideas, and you know, really world-class thinking and incredible talent from all across Brazil thought about this, and we had some great people from London and the United States thinking about it. But all of that without sort of a strong political strategy, the best urban design thinking in the world, and I think, you know, politics. And I was really struck by what Eduardo said, that, you know, as much as we talk about the physical aspects of regeneration, there can be some very dark ideas underpinning urban design, and we have to get ahead of that. And so after, you know, not just the Sao Paulo example, but also I've been doing a lot of thinking about what is the relationship between the center city and our suburbs and the urban fabric at large. And one Italian thinker that I've been very inspired by is Cesare Marchetti, who had this Marchetti's constant, this idea that commuting half hour in and out of wherever you're working across time has been a very good indicator of how healthy our urban regions are. And so I've been very struck by this idea that what is our role in today's political breakdown? You know, how can we as urban planners start to bring together the rural and the urban communities, or the suburban and urban communities? There's this real societal breakdown. And especially after COVID, when many people retreated back into, you know, living and working in their homes a lot more, we have this social breakdown. And that's something I've been very interested in. And I think I put that out to this Congress, that, you know, that we as a profession have to start talking about more than just the urban cores. Yes, there's really hard solutions or hard problems in the urban core, but we have to think more about the suburban fabric as well. Another project, like Nova Luz was a very important project to me, but closer to San Francisco, a project that I had the good fortune to work on was, we were looking at a very, one of the poorest communities in the Bay Area is an area of East Oakland that has been, you know, a prime example of what Eduardo talked about the sort of the racial segregation policies in the United States that really targeted communities of color to in the you know, in the 60s, 70s, and the last half of the 20th century, these communities were ripped apart by racist real estate strategies and infrastructure implementation strategies. And today they're the place where we have the worst problems about urban flooding and lack of real estate creation and investment in these areas. So this study that we looked at with funding from the Rockefeller Center, we had the best intentions in the world to come in and really think about this program. But in the middle of the project, we had a revolution from the local communities saying that they did not, you know, they were not asked to be part of this project. And it was a real eye-opener, you know, because we all thought we were doing the best thing in the world to come with the perfect urban solution. But what we realized was we had to double down on, you know, generating an idea with the community. So we stopped the project and we stepped back and we said, okay, well, what are the solutions? And we spent about 4 times as much time as we thought we were going to need in terms of having the community help us generate the ideas from the very start. And it was a real career-changing moment for me, a real sort of eye-opener. And you know, what I'm really pleased to say is that this community has been the most successful community in California's history at getting government funding to come in and address some of these systemic racist issues, and really is driving a new generation of infrastructure thinking for the Bay Area. And you know, in the Bay Area, one of the biggest problems we have is that the place where people want to live is the place that's most vulnerable to flooding. We have incredible sea level rise flooding, but as this section hopefully indicates for us in the profession, what happens is when the sea level rises, there's more pressure on the groundwater, and the groundwater is now flooding these areas that were, you know, the sort of you know, target of those segregationist policies. And so now, in order to think about how people can continue to live in these low-lying areas, we are really having to think about some big ideas, like borrowing some ideas from some of the European countries that have been thinking about how to live with water rather than protect against water. So some big thinking. After that project, I went on to think about the whole Bay Area and did a series of studies. And what's fascinating, this is a snapshot of our region. It's you know, if I go back to Marchetti's concept of like an hour region or an hour city, you know, to drive from San Francisco to San Jose is about an hour drive. It's about a half hour between Oakland and San Francisco. So we really, you know, we have a whole region to think about, but it's very broken down. And a lot of our most important economic areas, everyone knows about Silicon Valley. It's a suburban sprawl area between San Jose and San Francisco. So when you look at this, the thing I'll point out is that the red areas are usually the areas that architects are working in, that our urban planning is thinking of. The yellow areas are the suburbs, but just look at how much area we're not really involved in thinking about. And that's, you know, what the study was looking at how could we add the next 2 decades of development without sprawling more, without adding any more yellow. We're going to think about how all the place types in these areas could accommodate this 77% increase in housing units and 57% increase in jobs. And And so what we did was we took this approach of looking at half-mile squares. And so we looked at we pixelated the whole region and created these place types. And we you know, a lot of times urban designers and architects, we are very, I'll say, we're very snobby about working in the suburbs, and we say, oh, the suburbs, they don't deserve our attention. That's all, you know, that's what the developers do. It's not important enough to think about. But really, what I think about in this area is that there is a role to play for us, and every one of these place types has the ability to grow into the best version of itself. So, you know, I think that, you know, at least, you know, 200 years of suburbanization of our cities have proven that, you know, that people like to live in suburban areas. So and some people like to live in urban centers. But I think that what the challenge that we put for ourselves in this study was to say that if every place type became a better version of itself, then we could avoid sprawling further. So looking at, you know, this kind of suburban cul-de-sac, which is by far, it's a huge portion of our land area. What we said to ourselves was, what could we do through infrastructure? There's a lot of flooding and fire risk in California. So we thought to ourselves, like, what could be some good urban planning policies for this place type? And how much increase in housing could we accommodate? What's the walk score? How can we make these a better walk score so that it can be a place where people could have an alternative of using transportation rather than being car dependent? And then we looked at places like the office park. And one of the biggest urban economic drivers in the Bay Area are these huge office parks where the big tech companies are. And what's really great about these place types is that they tend to be large parcels that a single owner will own some of these big campuses. And we realized that with some thoughtful integrated thinking between the transportation and the development scenarios, we could put housing, we could do mixed use housing and jobs and transportation investment. And these areas could become some of the most exciting new areas. Whereas right now, these Silicon Valley office parks are absolutely soulless and terrible places to be, especially after work hours. And so, you know, really thinking about, you know, this kind of neighborhood is this is what it looks like today in the upper left, and then this is what it could look like if we, you know, you can see some density increases along the transit cores. If we have these bus lines that come through the neighborhoods by having higher density instead of all single family housing, or the idea of doing, you know, little garage units in the single family houses, this is a very possible scenario that could happen in the suburbs, and all of a sudden the suburbs become a lot more interesting place to live and for families to create a next generation of wealth. And then this is what the office park could look like in the future, with that sort of the autonomous transit coming in, and a lot more last quarter mile solutions for people to be able to get into suburban neighborhoods and come to these areas as their new neighborhood centers. And then the last one that I'll talk about is there's a lot of industrial areas that, especially with the political dialogue going on about recreating a manufacturing base of jobs in the United States. You know, what are we as an urban planning group what is our profession going to say about this? Like, you know, these places are really tough places, but they often, like, at least in the Bay Area context, the real opportunity here is that they are often right next to our rail corridors, where a next generation investment in rail could become a new logistics spine, and also a more believable way that the workforce can take the transit to these new manufacturing hubs. So this kind of vision and this is the kind of place that, you know, architects don't usually work in. And so putting out a big vision for this kind of industrial base of lands is very important for us to show up with an idea. And then it's, you know, by doing that, we really thought a lot about this sort of suburban areas, but then we came back and looked at what's happening in the downtown core. So this is downtown San Jose, where there is for the first time in my life, this is where the high-speed rail from Los Angeles will come and land at this big new train station. And then Google has bought all of this land here and is very dedicated to creating a dense, vital urban district with their campus rather than being a suburban campus. And then that's all next to, you know, this is about a 10-minute walk from downtown San Jose to this new station. So it really is believable that if you put all of the proposals together and think about infrastructure investment that can support this, it is going to take a lot of collective thinking, but it is possible to imagine a revitalized and re-energized urban core in San Jose. And then downtown Oakland is also an area where there's some big infrastructure proposals happening. And what we realized was that nobody was looking at all of the new developments. So all of this development that is ghosted in this image are all separate real estate proposals that aren't being thought of collectively. So it just was a simple exercise of putting them all together and then thinking about where the new, like this highway that cuts across east-west on this drawing is an area that is threatened by sea level rise right now. So they're going to have to rebuild it in the next 20 years. And there's a new bay crossing. Right now, we only have one train that cuts across in a tunnel under the San Francisco Bay from San Francisco to Oakland, and it's very vulnerable to earthquake risk. So this helps to justify, with all of this urban development happening in the core, it helps people understand why it's important to support the money spent on creating a second crossing. And that's where, and then even in San Francisco, even within the city, we have a small problem or a big problem, political problem, is that everybody that lives on the west side of the city is very anti-growth, and all of the growth is meant to go on the urban west side. That was the old industrial areas. So we really have to think collectively about how to solve some of those problems. And with that, I'll stop and just leave you with these. You know, this is a report that I wrote about, you know, how do we create, you know, 8 steps to a brilliant city. And I think about, I like the word brilliant because it's sort of what's after smart cities. Like, you know, I want to think about a brilliant city as one that works collectively with its region and reestablishes that our city that Mr. Marchetti talked about, that, you know, we really have to create a healthy balance between our suburban regions and our urban regions. And maybe I'm an optimist, but I believe that if we start working on that urban-rural divide, that maybe we can start to heal some of the political, social political problems that we have all across the world. Every country seems to be suffering from these divides between our cities and the regions right now. So with that, I will stop sharing, and thank you very much.
Oh, Stephen, thank you so much for your presentation. It's very inspiring. And I think your personal involvement in those projects will lead into a nice discussion afterwards. So please hang on there. And let's welcome Esther. Esther is an architect, social urbanist and activist, recognized as one of the 50 most influential architects, landscape architects and designers in Brazil. She's a PhD candidate in the graduate program in architecture and urbanism at Universidade Presbiteriana Mackenzie in São Paulo, and a faculty member in the undergraduate program at the same institution. She holds a master's degree in project production and urban space management from PMFAAN, also in São Paulo, and is a specialist in social urbanism from INSPER and housing and city from Escola da Cidade. Since 2017, she has been the president of Instituto Fazendinhando, an organization that promotes territorial, social, environmental, and cultural transformation in favelas, especially in Jardim Colombo, the community where she was born and raised. Esther's activism and practical achievements led her to exhibit her work as a guest lecturer at the Brazil conference at Harvard GST, at the World Urban Forum in Cairo, Egypt, at the Urbanism Laboratory and Bloomberg City Lab in Mexico City, and at the Architecture Triennale in Sharjah in the United Arab Emirates. Also, she also lectured at the Urbanism Festival at Marseille in France and at MIT Boston, among others. Currently, she coordinates Programa Raízes, an initiative launched in late 2024 by the Municipal Department of Urbanism and Licensing of São Paulo, operating within Complexo de Paraisópolis, the city's largest favela, developing projects at different scales to improve urban spaces and enhance the living condition of the local population. So, Steph, seja bem-vinda. Please welcome. You have the floor. If you want to share the presentation, please. Okay, you can see it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. I am so happy to be here with you. I'm not fluent in English, so today I will improve my English. Thank you so much, Jimenez and Carlos Leite, for this connection, invitation. And I like so much the presentation, Eduardo and Stephen. Congratulations! I learned here too, and I work with favelas since I was child, because my father is community leader, and I was born and raised in favela, and I chose to study architecture and urbanism because I wanted to learning for the transformation my community. So I will explain it better for you in my presentation. Okay. What is social urbanism? I work with social architecture, social urbanism, and for me, social urbanism empowers and equips residents of vulnerable territories, promoting active participation, community collaboration, and the engagement with the public and the private sectors to transform spaces and strengthening exclusion. Sometimes people ask me, Esther, what is difference between social urbanism and the urban planning? For me, while traditional urban planning often only involves considering the community, already social urbanism places residents as the protagonists of the transformation. I think the community today found some solution. The community created a solution. There are solutions in community, but sometimes it's necessary integrate the solution with technical knowledge, for example. So here you can explore some key pillars of social urbanism: participatory governance, social inclusion, integrated public policy. And recently, I started to work in with a public sector, and it's very, very difficult the dialogue with different sectors. So I think when I am talking about a social urbanism, the integration between different public policies, it's easier. Also, territorial transformation, culture and the identity, sustainable development, education, and the training. And I believe university has have an important objective, important is fundamental role in social urbanism, because the university can be connected the different knowledge, the different actions, and for example, in university, in Mackenzie University, this moment we are capacitated community leaders for transformation our reality, our own reality. So it's very important the connection with university, with institute, with private and the public initiatives. I think the difference is very, very important. The work with civil society actors, and this is my community, Jardim Colombo. I will share with you a little about our work. And I like to share this picture because it's possible understand the region. Here we have a Jardim Colombo community, and this part is Morumbi region. And the one on side, we have green spaces, walking areas, and the dignified housing. On the other, this is a stream, no green spaces, and no school. For me, when I was child, for me, it was very, very difficult study to connect it with the other reality, because for us, happening was very, very limited, and I always have questions, because happening it, and the absence of green spaces, and the children sometimes need to play along with the edges of the stream, because not having other option for their and there are many houses without a bedroom, with excessive moldy and the unsanitary conditions, infested with rats and the cockroaches, and the lake nature, lighting, and the ventilation. And today we have also small house. It's very, very difficult for people live there. And I am president Fazendeando Institute. Fazendeando is an institute focused on territorial, cultural, and the social environment transformation that operate in favelas in the city of São Paulo. And we work with some pillars: engagement, community, management, shared, transformation, culture, promoting the local economy, and the circular design. For example, now in my thesis, I am studying about management shared. For me, it's very, very, very important, the participation, the community, but also important to have public, private initiatives, university, in general, society, civil society. I stay for 2 months in Colombia, and I learn a lot with them, in special about urbanism social. And for me, it was experience incredible, because, for example, I see intervention happening, integration con different sectors, with participatory process, and the I was very happy with the transformation, because they monitor the public, the sector public monitor this intervention. It's not happening in Brazil. It's very difficult when some intervention, public intervention happening in Brazil, in different favela, it's not happening. Few time, it's possible to see the gridded areas, for example. So it's very important to talk about it, monitor this intervention, this action, this project. And our first project is the Fazendinha project in Jardim Colombo. We had the open space to play. When I was a child, I roamed for streets. I had the open space to play, but now it's not possible. But we had this space. In the favelas, there is scarcity of open space and the green areas. The space is called Fazendinha because before it became a landfill. It was like a small farm with cows, chickens, and the children used to play there. Mr. Chico, who took care of the area, had a lot of love for the place, but he started to get sick, and he could no longer take care of it. As a result, people began to dump a lot of trash in the area. We start a mobilization, a community mobilization process to transform the old landfill. Whenever in the beginning, it was very difficult to get the community involved because nobody wanted to participate in it. When I was started this project, some children happening this space, and they told me, I can help. I want to transformation this space. I want to play this space. But I was worried. How can the community not want to participate? This space is for the community. Why aren't they collaborating? I never imagined that one day I would be collecting tiles from the streets, since we didn't have the money to buy them. I remember I write different emails for company asking help for tiles, but anybody help us, and I need it's necessary. It was necessary getting tiles for creative intervention. But after we understand it's necessary to create a program with a community to community participated. So when I started culture activities, environment activities, the community already participated. So I understand in the intervention in favela, the project is a result, but the process is very important too, because it's necessary helping community understand this space is mine. So I need to help. I need to take care of this space. Here some pictures, and it's very important to say that in the houses in community are very small. So the people not have, for example, yard, green areas, specific space to play. So today, Fazendinha receive the families to play for different activities, and our project it was construction with a process participative. I am architecture, but my opinion, but no, my opinion, no, but I forget the word, but it's necessary understand what the community want for this space, and talk with different people in the community. Others pictures here. This result the project. The project it was created with a participatory process, and it's important to say now we have investment, we have money from public sector, but we will this project with our ideas that construction with the community. After the creation of Fazendinha Park, we realized the importance of integrating small green areas. So it's very important. We are talking about changing climate changing, for example, but it's necessary. The favela is necessary have most green areas in the houses, in the street, in different spaces. Our second project is Fazendeira. We're training in women in civil construction. For me, is a special project because with this project we get a empowerment, feminine empowerment community, and we talk for women. It's possible change your own reality. It's possible connect with other work, and now we have a big group, the women that can transformation your house, and also we have women that work with civil construction, and for us is very important because we are creating new opportunities for women, and when 30 favelas is very, very important to talk about gender politics, for example. And we have today we have also women or women a group of women that working in your own community, not necessarily working in other space. Today they can working in your community too. Did you know that the construction industry is one of the most environment impactful sectors? And our other project is about reforming in precarious house, but we have a different methodology. because we receive different materials, and we can recycling these materials for renovating this precarious house. And I have questions for you. Have you ever imagined living in a house that is only for square meters? It's possible. Imagine it. And the Chiquinho, this was the situation of Mr. Chiquinho, who lived in a house of only 4 square meters, without a bathroom, without a kitchen. He had to climb the wall to access the bed. But now he live in other situation, and it's possible because I learning in university how create new possibilities. Other images, pictures, other example, transformation, this house, before, after. This we have Wallace live the story about Wallace. Wallace lived in a house of only 7 square meters without a bedroom, and he worked 12 hours a day as a delivery man, but on a bicycle. And he couldn't afford to renovate the space he had, and we get in transformation this situation, and included today Wallace study with me, but it's not he could not finish school, and this project is very special for me because I can help my community. I can help person that I study, for example, and the Wallace now fund the others work. So this renovation, this transformation had impact in other sector in your life. This house, the Fausto house, Fausto lived alone, and his house was at risk of collapsing. We started a transforming process, and the most interesting part of this project is that all the furniture I will share with you. So this is a world situation, and this is a now situation, and all materials that you see, we can recycling the different materials. Other pictures. We have already renovated more than the different space in different favelas in São Paulo, for studying the local economy, and involving both women and the men for the community and the entire development process. And well, that's it. I would like, for me, the most important in this process is community empowerment. I think it's very important. We need to help our community transform its territories. We need to share our community, the power of the collective, and I think there are power in our hands for transformation. It's necessary, different actors, but for me, the most important is empowerment community. Thanks so much, and sorry for my English.
Well, thank you so much, Esther. You did just fine. Don't worry about it. It was very, very inspiring, very enlightening to see all the work you have been doing in your home community. And I do have a question for you later on, but I would like to start with Stephen. A very small, a very quick question because we're running out of time. So one quick question for each of you. Stephen, you live and work in an area that is subject to sea level rise, as you mentioned, which is a major concern for the next few decades. This is a transformation that we are already seeing, and we will probably see it in a much faster growth in the upcoming years. So very quickly, we're gonna have to deal with it. Well, San Francisco is a large urbanized area right close to the sea, and of course, it will suffer a major impact from sea level rise. Do you think it is possible for San Francisco and other big cities to deal with that in a let's say in a systemic way, or at a point we'll have to give up and have to displace population in large numbers? How do you see it, honestly, the upcoming development?
Well, I think it is. I think it's a bit of. The answer is both, yes and. So we've already during the first, I think a little bit of history is that, over the, first 100 years of people urbanizing the San Francisco Bay Area, they paved over a lot of the wetland areas that functioned to protect upland areas. And already over the past 50 years, a lot of that has already been restored to wetlands. So we sort of gave up on it as, because of a better understanding of the flood risk. So we already restored and retreated from about 50% of that area, but now we still have a lot of tough decisions to make. And we cannot afford, even a wealthy area like San Francisco cannot afford to protect everywhere. So that's where I think a lot of innovative thinking is required, because I think that retreat can happen in a lot of ways. And that's why I'm very interested in, I guess my question, the answer is that we can redefine what retreat looks like, because you can live with water. You don't have, it's not a binary yes or no answer. It's like we can live like that example I showed of some floating development. I think that's the reality, is we're going to have to start doing some very innovative thinking for infrastructure and for the building design.
Great, thank you, Eduardo. About the same issue, have you studied any major projects in this matter? So how will the large coastal cities will deal with that, and what type of projects, or do you see any difference in type of projects that we'll have to develop in the upcoming years to face this challenge?
Yeah, well, I think we have to change our view about this subject, because we here had some problems with Jardim Pantanal, that is a community very close to the river Tietê, is in the floodplains of river Tietê, and as we have had more rains than we used to, it became flooded, and there were a lot of nature-based initiatives that can mitigate this sort of problems, but I think the main thing is that the governments have to think more about it, because, for instance, our mayor is saying, well, we're going to evict all these people, instead of providing the right infrastructure to deal with this climate change and floodplains areas. So, and there are a lot of, for instance, as Stephen said, for instance, we can learn with the Dutch how to live underwater, because they basically 30 or 40% of the Netherlands is underwater. So I think we have already the technology to do it, but I think it is a political decision. And that brings me to the next point that I think both of Stephen and Esther presentations were very, very good on it. That is the participatory process. I mean, you have to involve the people from the beginning, and we have to start thinking about bottom-up initiatives rather than top-down, because I think this is the only way we can overcome this problem of adaptive architecture and urban development to climate change. So I think there are already techniques and ways to deal with that, but I think we have to convince our governments, and that's probably will be done by the involvement of the community leaders, of NGOs like Fazenda, that Esther is the leader, and also the university. I think Esther also talked about an important point, because she's also a professor, that the universities have to be involved with this sort of solutions with the community just from the beginning. So I think, we have to think about it. We have to change the way we see it and the way we deal with. And I think this, as a political process, has to come from the community and from the academy, and also, of course, the other stakeholders that are concerned about that. The work Stephen is doing in San Francisco was very much, an example of how to do it. So basically, what I think is that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just grab it from there, the participatory processes. And I would like to ask Esther, what are the main challenges in getting people engaged, and how to make people actually contribute to such type of projects, even though most of them do not have technical skills or education to participate or to lead a project, an urbanist project? What are the main challenges to bring these people into the subject, engage them, and get nice results from it? What's your experience?
Okay. The first, thank you, Eduardo, for the words and the explaining better my my concept here, and the to work with a community is a little difficult because in general the community losing the trust, because the community told I will let lost my house, what is happening here, so it's very difficult creating trust with the community, but I think it's necessary the first create this trust with the community, but how can create this trust? I think I share a little with you about social education, culture activities, and when we have that dialogue with the community, but with different activities, it's easier for dialogue, for happening dialogue with the community, and in general, it's very difficult. We talk about a community leader, about a person, about what person solution the community created in these spaces. So it's very important how to say Jimenez dar voz. This word is very important for explain.
Empower, to give voice or empower, yeah.
Empower community, because while time the community are marginalized. I don't believe if you what happening in community that are criminalated, but I think our work, our projects to work with a potential community, empower community with different activities, with a listen community, with involve the community in our process, with creating new connections to community, because they need new opportunities, they need new connections, and they need to participate in this whole process. And I learning with that in Medellin, in Bogota, about it, cultural transformation. So I think cultural transformation is a pillar, is a main pillar for this transformation.
Nice. And Stephen also mentioned that we also need to create systemic change in the compensation of communities for their time in the process, either by paying them to be part of the team or by offering them material benefits like a property improvement. So yeah, it's a nice practical way to engage as well. But as we've gone through, Stephen, together in Sao Paulo, to reach out to the local population and integrate them into the process from the beginning, as Esther said, is vital. So this is not something we can do afterwards, after the project is halfway done or halfway discussed. This is way too late to integrate the local community, right? So I'd like to ask to thank all the guests. Thank you very much for your time, all the visitors and listeners. And I would also like to invite you for Hilda Rimoy's presentation on real estate and heritage reuse in March 13th. Please connect the CTV page on LinkedIn. I just wrote in the chat here in our call, and yes, we're gonna run the video once more, right? So many of you haven't seen the introduction video, and we're gonna replay it. And well, thank you very much, Stephen, Esther, and Eduardo. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Abbiamo proseguito imperterriti, pensando di rimanere sempre sani in un mondo malato.
Le parole pronunciate da Papa Francesco il 27 marzo 2020 in una piazza San Pietro irrealmente deserta durante l'orazione straordinaria per la fine della pandemia saranno la guida alle varie riflessioni interdisciplinari che alimenteranno le 3 giornate del 15° Congresso internazionale Città e Territorio Virtuale. La storia recente, le sfide contemporanee e le crisi internazionali sono l'occasione per riflettere su come gestire, conservare e sviluppare quei sistemi complessi che sono la città e il territorio in un futuro prossimo, drammaticamente segnato da alcune gravi crisi internazionali, e costruire strategie finalmente antifragili. nato da una intuizione di Josep Roca Cladera, allora direttore del Centro de Política de Suela y Valoración della Università Politecnica della Catalunya di Barcellona. Con l'edizione numero 15, il Congresso Città e Territorio Virtuale ritorna a Roma dopo 12 anni, dal 10 al 12 settembre 2025, per tracciare un percorso rinnovato e interdisciplinare nella ricerca, nella comunicazione, nella didattica, nella direzione di un rinascimento della città, richiamando così quanto sostenuto da Marcello Vittorini fin dal 1988 e più recentemente da Matteo Hardy, che aprirà il nostro congresso. La coincidenza con il Giubileo 2025 sarà anche l'occasione per confrontarsi sugli effetti e impatti dei grandi eventi su città e territori, con un'attenzione speciale ai risvolti socio-economici e a quelli climatico-ambientali e al reale incremento della competitività a livello internazionale. Il congresso, che sarà ospitato dalla Facoltà di Architettura della Sapienza ed è frutto della stretta collaborazione con l'Università Roma Tor Vergata e l'Università Roma 3, si articolerà in 3 giornate tematiche, equilibri, scenari e forze, con 3 lectio magistralis che vedranno alternarsi Matteo Hardy, Alessandra Vittorini e Arnaldo Bibo Cecchini, 12 sessioni parallele e 4 sessioni speciali, che saranno occasione per intercambiare esperienze e conoscenze all'interno e soprattutto all'esterno dell'ambito accademico. Aprono le iniziative del congresso 3 webinar, il 27 febbraio, il 13 e il 27 marzo 2025, che saranno rispettivamente curati da Lorenzo Gimenez della Università Mackenzie di San Paolo del Brasile, Hilde Remoy della TU Delft e Blanca Reyano Ramos della Università Politecnica della Catalogna, e verteranno su 3 dei temi chiave su cui si concentrerà il dibattito del congresso: le prospettive sociali strategiche e pratiche sulla rigenerazione urbana nelle città in transizione, il real estate e il riuso del patrimonio, i rischi naturali e le città resilienti. Vi aspettiamo numerosi.